time for Top Story. And Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood president isn't just shaking up domestic politics. He's building global partnerships with China, Iran, Brazil and the United States. Today, Mohamed Morsi continues his visit to China before flying to Tehran for the non-aligned summit. The president has been discussing Syria and Chinese investment in the stricken Egyptian economy. I want to analyse Cairo's bold foreign overtures. I'm joined by International Affairs editor Arman Georgian. So Arman, this week's kind of marked Morsi's first major strides in the international stage, I suppose. What should we read into them, do you think?
Well, I think things have definitely changed since the era of Hosni Mubarak, Stuart, the former president, who was seen by Washington through the prism of Israeli security and Arab moderation. And in his foreign relations, that's pretty much how he acted. Now I think we're seeing a much more independent Egyptian foreign policy, summed up by this quote, Yasser Ali, the spokesman for Mr. Morsi. We've gone through a very long period of diplomatic stagnation, torpidity and rigidity. So obviously trying to shake things up after those 30 years of Hosni Mubarak. The fact that he's going to China and Iran, does that mean that he's moving into a sort of anti-American or anti-Western bloc? Because, of course, the views on Syria are so different in China and Iran. The answer is definitely not. His very first foreign visit, I should remind you, was to Saudi Arabia, which is a staunch US ally. And next month he goes to Washington. He's also going to Brazil. So it's a kind of non-aligned foreign policy, if you will, that sometimes intersects with US interests and sometimes it doesn't.
So how significant then is Morsi's courting of China?
Well, obviously they share a very cautious stance on Syria, don't they? Don't call for sanctions on the UN Security Council. But I think this visit, particularly, Stuart, is about money. The Egyptian economy obviously has suffered this huge drop in tourist revenues, unemployment's gone up and so on. He's got pledges, Morsi, from the Chinese to get $200 million in credit for the National Bank of Egypt. That's much smaller, actually, than the loans he's received pledges for from Saudi Arabia and Qatar. He's also seeking from the IMF $4.8 billion. So this is a much smaller sum, but obviously I think this is about longer-term partnership and sort of friendship. Let's take a listen to try to understand that better to the Chinese vice president.
Your visit this time is our two countries' most important since the political changes in Egypt. China places tremendous value on you being here. It is hoped your visit will further increase our mutual understanding and trust, promote greater cooperation and exchanges between our two countries.
Stuart, note the Vice President saying there that this is the most significant visit in the two countries since the changes in Egypt. So we can infer it there since early 2011, really, when the Tahrir Square revolution really got into gear. And, so if that's true, that's a pretty significant thing for a Chinese leader to say Xi Jinping is almost certain to be the next president of China next spring. And of course, he's in a position to sort of talk up a new friendship, try to get Chinese tourists to travel to Egypt now that they've got a bit more money, traveling more widely, and act as a sort of conduit for Chinese new operations in Africa as a whole, I think.
And as you said, he's racking up the air miles, isn't he? And now off to Iran.
Yeah, that's the next stage. What should we expect from Iran? Well, interestingly, he's proposed this group. It's called the Committee of Four to end the Syrian bloodshed. This means bringing in Iran, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt, those four. A bit like Kofi Annan, he wants to have the Iranians sort of inside the tent peeing out rather than outside the tent peeing in. Kofi Annan failed there because the US opposed Iranian involvement in trying to resolve the Syrian situation. But so I think Morsi's trying to bring that back. The trouble is obviously these four powers have their own long-standing regional interests, totally at loggerheads with one another. They're already using their own proxies in the Syrian conflict, so hard to see how that can make headway. And also, it might just muddy the waters from the perspective of Washington that really wants to isolate Assad. And so I think Morsi will have some explaining to do when he meets Barack Obama next month.
We shall, of course, continue to follow Morsi's trip around the world here on France 24. Armand, thank you very much. Armand Georgian, our international affairs editor. That's today's top story.